Hey there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome. Thanks for joining me in today's video. I want to talk about Jailhouse Rock. Classic Elvis Presley tune, obviously. A blues, as a lot of 50s and 60s rock and roll was. Very, very heavily steeped in the blues. So this tune in particular uses very common blues elements, the 12-bar blues form, the major pentatonic scale, lots of very solid blues elements, and it's kind of a fun tune. So let's check it out. Starting out, clap, clap, right? Now, one thing I should tell you is that I'm playing it in E. The original recording, or at least the one from the Jailhouse Rock movie that I used, sounds E flat. So if you play it in E like I am, you're going to notice the discrepancy there. So you're going to have to tune down a half step if you want to make it sound like the recording. I know that you have to tune down a half step because there's a low E flat when it goes down to that part. So keep that in mind. If you try to play along with the record exactly, it's not going to be that way. Also, you got to remember that a lot of those old records are not exactly in tune, like to a tuner. If you tune to a tuner directly to E flat, you still may be a little off. Back in the old days, they didn't have electronic tuners. They just tuned to whatever piano was in the studio. They were always a little bit off one way or the other. Plus, a lot of times the tapes got sped up or slowed down. A lot of things changed. Long story short, very rarely are old recordings perfectly in tune. You might as well just tune to the recording. Okay, now that we got that. So starting out, now, and generally speaking, the piano does this as well as the guitar. Sometimes only the piano does it, but it's just a root fifth thing. So 6th fret on the 5th string, it's a power chord, 8th fret on the 4th string, E flat to E. Right, and that is our 1 chord. If we think blues in E, that's our 1 chord. Now it does it a couple of times. We'll call it a vamp at the top. Right? And then the singing comes in. 1, 2, 3, 4, a 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 1, 2, 3, and now the singing's, right? So we're gonna do it how many times over the singing? Well, say it with me now, 4. Because why? Because there's 4 bars of 1 at the top of a 12-bar blues. So this is acting as our 1 chord. Therefore, we're going to do it 4 times. It's basically a blues with a long 1. So try not to let that trip you up. 4, very common number in blues, very common number in a lot of songs. Okay, so we're going to do that 4 times. Right? After the break, down to A, right? 4 chord. Now it's always some variation of the 3+2 major pentatonic pattern. So from an A at the 5th fret up to the 9th fret on the 6th string, 7th fret and 9th fret on the 5th string. Now, it's a little bit tricky. Here's one of the things that you really got to pay attention to. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, right? That's a tough move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's going to be a real challenge. If you listen very closely to the recording, you're going to hear sometimes the last note gets abandoned. Okay? So a lot of times, then the last note sort of gets abandoned to get back to where the guitar player needs to be. So a lot of times I'll just play that much. Then we're going to go down to E. Low E, 4th fret, 2nd fret, 4th, 2nd if you can get it. It's not so hard when you're playing it twice. So again, this is a 12-bar blues. We did this 4 times. Therefore, this is going to be 2 times. Then back to the 1 chord, E, 2 times. Then to the B, the 5 chord. Now you could do it here at the 2nd fret of the 5th string. That's fine. You can do it at the 7th fret of the 6th string. The pattern doesn't change no matter where you put this pattern. From the root, it's third finger, then slide up 2. So you end up going 4 frets. And then your first finger is already in place on the next string. It's the same as, right? You see this pattern, it just comes up all the time. It's just one of these patterns that you just get used to. Right, so I'm gonna do it from the 7th fret, because then I'm gonna go to the 5th fret. 5, 4, right? 5 chord, 4, 1 chord. 1 and 2 and 3, and then you gotta jump back in. So there's a little bit of a jump there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, down to E, to B, A, and E. And then we start over. Now, there is a solo, which is effectively a bridge. Okay, so a common blues bridge is 8 bars worth of music. It's the 4 chord twice, which this does, to the E chord once or twice, and then finish out the form. So it's basically the last 8 bars of the 12-bar blues form. It just skips the first 4. So the 5, the 4, and the 1. And then it's back to that. And the solo over this, it's a little bit funky. He just kind of plays this high E and G together over the A. And then when the E comes around, he basically, it sounds like there's two notes playing a G sharp. It could be, this G sharp here, but he's kind of bending up to it from below. It's a really odd sound, and I can hear that there's 2 notes. It sounds like he's kind of already there. So whether or not he bends up to it from here or here, I don't know. It just sounds like there's 2 of the same note, and they kind of jiggle around a little bit. And then when it goes to the 5 chord, he just plays it. So calling it a guitar solo might be a little bit of a stretch. It's just kind of an odd group of sounds. It's almost like he's just sort of playing something to go with each chord. And again, over the 4 chord, he plays the E and the G there. And then the G sharp over the E, and then just plays the chords. And it's something like that. It's very difficult to hear. It's kind of, I don't want to say sloppy, but it's the recording makes it messy. It's a little bit hard to hear exactly what's going on. But anything like that would work. You could play E minor pentatonic. You could play E major pentatonic probably over most of that. It would probably sound great. I think any of the sort of standard blues options would work just fine. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the whole tune. It's a 12-bar blues, so all of the verses are the same. All of the chord, every pass through is exactly the same. So hope you dig that. Hope you kind of play around with it, and hopefully, I hope more than anything that you see that the structure of that song is a 12-bar blues. There's a lot of songs out there that are a 12-bar blues format, even though it might not be immediately obvious. So I hope you see that. As always, if you have guitar playing friends that you think might dig this video, hope you'll share it with them. I am Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Take it easy, and I will talk to you soon.